Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast powered by Cineman. I'm Ewan, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan.
This week's episode, we have a lot to talk about, such as an update to the film festival lineup in Cannes and a new Twilight series. I didn't mean to say it like I was questioning it. I should probably just read the script before I start recording. But yes, a Twilight series?
A Twilight series, I guess. We got to discuss which team we are because I guess it's something we have to do again in the 2020s. I watched a bunch of new releases from this year. I caught two of the things streaming on Amazon with Dead Ringers and Ghosted, as well as A Good Person, The Pope's Exorcist, 1001, and the new film from the Your Name director called Suzume. Finally, Lachlan and I caught up with the third season of The Mandalorian.
Finally today, we're going to talk about probably 2023's most divisive film. Yeah, I think it's going to be the most divisive film of the year. BEAU is afraid. You and I have some thoughts coming up very shortly.
So many thoughts. So let's cue up that intro and get into the show. We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
did you
this
get
is
me a hat as well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
All right, welcome back. A much anticipated show this week. I think Beau is Afraid was one of the films that made it onto my most anticipated of 2023. I think it was up there for both of us. So looking forward to our discussion now that we've both seen it. And and we're going to get into that later in the show. If you want to skip ahead to that, there are time codes, as always, to each and everything we discuss on this week's show. But first up, we are taking a look at the news this week. And I just want to mention a couple of trailers at the top of the news segment. There was basically a teaser for the title announcement. That's actually a thing for a movie in the Monsterverse. I think that's what they're calling it. For Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. And we didn't get much beyond, I guess, that title as well. But it's giving a bit of like Batman v Superman vibes, if I'm being completely honest with like that title choice. What did you make of it? Like, we don't have anything on it yet.
You know how we shit on those like pre-trailer trailer things at the start of trailers? You know how every time we see it, we're just like, oh, there's nothing that annoys me more than a trailer for a teaser of a name that we're not going to get a trailer for a movie we're not going to have for another 2 years. Like, there's no point to this. Just announce it like everybody else that there's just going to be another movie. You don't need to make something like this. There's a lot of money to throw into just because it's going to cost them a decent amount of cash to make something like this. Just put it into the film instead. I'd rather that. Anyway, I will watch it because I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. I will watch any sort of Godzilla versus Kong, no matter how bad it is. I will watch it because I like big bang bangs and boom booms. There's nothing that gets me going more in a cinema than a giant Godzilla and a giant monkey and a giant robot Godzilla. Last film, even more. Sign me up. I love Transformers. I had a great time. I had a great time. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I'll watch it no matter what.
I think it's also like not Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. I don't know if any of them have been called that, at least in this like Monsterverse of the American films. But I mean, I'm down. It's good, fun, big action, and
the last one was Godzilla versus Kong, where this one is it Godzilla X Kong?
Godzilla X Kong.
So
they're together.
They're in a relationship.
It's a rom-com.
They're in a rom-com. Brilliant. Yeah. I think that's exactly where they needed to go with this franchise.
It's like before sunrise, but Godzilla like destroys the sun, and then like the whole world goes down, and it's their last.
Because I don't know much about this world. Babies. I don't know much about the Godzilla world. But I feel like at least all of the big name monsters they've already killed off with like Mothra and
of whatever that one's called.
Hades' dog thing. The three like headed
Heads
one. Like
and
they got the big ones out of the way, so they have to make some new ones. I guess I don't know. I'm not big into the kaiju world.
I think there's a lot
Pacific
of them,
Rim,
but yeah.
Pacific Rim lineup. Can you imagine? Sign me up for a crossover for Pacific Rim X Godzilla X Kong X Vin Diesel. Why Vin Diesel?
Yeah. Vin Diesel. Well, speaking of X in the title, Fast X, you know. Also I wanted to make the tie over when you mentioned the budget because allegedly, supposedly, reportedly, they have a budget of $340 million for this movie. And it just doesn't. I get it's a lot of like action set pieces. I think it's also just a lot of like names that cost a lot of money by the 10th installment in the series. But
and Kong's ass is jiggle physics.
This has to make like I think about like 1.5 billion probably to be an actual success. I mean,
calm down.
I think it needs to make like some Avatar like money to be considered like a big old success. But they also I think just announced that for the 11th one. They're bringing back the same director or something like that. That's already in the works, and that's gonna be the final one until we get the reboot of the spin-off of the remake of Fast X. But yeah, what did you make of the trailer?
For Fast X, yes, I was quickly gonna say Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla X Kong is probably gonna be shot in Australia, so yeah, local cinema.
Yes.
Yeah. Fast X though, man, I don't know what it was about this trailer, but it. I'm about to be sick, but it made me want to watch it. I don't know what happened, Ewan.
It just looked so
I don't know what's
fun.
happening to me. I don't know what's happening to me. It's like I'm just god.
I think Fast and Furious is different than Transformers, where Transformers is like similar in just like blatantly giving you action with a nonsensical plot, and it's probably overblown. It's overall like its own self-importance. But there's something about like having just a mess of a cluster of characters in there that just seem to have like a good time, get a shit ton of money, and then dip. And although, like, I was like, Jason Momoa looks ridiculous, and his backstory is so funny. It seems like a parody of like an actual thing that could happen in this universe, and he seems to have just like a good bit of fun. I mean, I'm definitely gonna watch it.
I think I have to admit that I have not seen all of the Fast and Furious movies. Okay.
Have you not seen a spin-off? That's the only way you're Rick stuff in this conversation.
So I haven't seen.
Have you not seen
Shaw?
9? Yeah, don't bother. It's not. Yeah. Not essential.
The only ones that I have watched, at least I have memory of watching, is 1, 2, because 2's Tokyo Drift. Yeah, 2's Tokyo Drift.
No. That's 3. 2 is Too Fast, Too Furious.
No, yeah, okay. So 1, 2, and 3. I didn't watch 4. I watched Fast 5. Fast 5 has the safe. Yeah, the safe.
The safe. Yeah, that's the backstory for this one. Yeah.
Yep. 6, 7. I didn't watch 6. 7 is Paul Walker's death. So I watched that one. 8, 9 didn't watch.
8, 9 blend together for me as well, but I've seen them all.
I think it's time that I watch all of the Fast and Furious movies. 1 week only. Hobbs and Shaw included, spin-offs included. I will watch every single Fast and Furious movie in 1 week.
Well, yeah, I think it comes out right around the time we go to Gun, so we won't be able, I think, to cover it. We'll have to wait. We'll have to see if we can sneak something in there. But have fun. I don't know if I want to do that to me.
Do you think the French would be if we went to one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world to then sneak out to go watch Fast 10?
I think in the intermission of Killers of a Flower Moon, which is now been finally confirmed to be like 3 hours and 20 something minutes long, just short about like 3 minutes of his longest film yet with The Irishman. In the intermission time, if we get one, we can go see Fast X return and then finish Killers of the Flower Moon.
Or we just ask for them to screen Fast X as the intermission.
Or one of us
let's
stays.
write to
No,
the
no, no.
festival.
What we do is we go on a on a voice call, a video call, and one of us goes sees Fast X, and the other one's in the other theater. And in the true mind of Gen Zers, we just watch them at the same time, right?
Or I just
Bit
make
of
a
a double
TikTok
fun.
of it.
Or a TikTok of it, yeah. Yeah, they had a collaboration last year with TikTok. Would be funny if they just expanded. Just in Gun, in that city, you can make TikToks up to 2 hours and 3 hours and 30 minutes long. Just so you can stream the entirety of Killers of, yeah. Anyways, that's pretty much for the trailers. Other than like Insidious, the Red Door, I found that concept kind of interesting because I haven't seen the original Insidious, but it's the same kid character that returns as a teenager now. I think that's how you do sequels kind of well when they're not rushed. If they manage to tell a great story with that, that would be sick. But I just didn't realize that Insidious and The Conjuring are not connected, although they do share Patrick, what's his name?
Wilson's character.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson. I was so confused. Like, why? I had to check if they got the same name in both of these franchises. But I guess he's just at the center of all of this. And I mean, they're also doing a Conjuring TV show. So, I mean, get that, Brett, man. But yeah.
This is also
probably gonna
Patrick
maybe
Wilson's
try to see it. But yeah.
Directorial debut as well, I believe. So,
okay. Yes.
Insidious The Red Door will be his directorial debut. I'm super excited for that reason, just to see what he does as a director.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I do like when, especially in the safeguards somewhat of like a franchise that they've been a part of, to then kind of do your directorial debut. I think it does make sense, because if you bring someone else in, then it's always just like a lot of like producing stuff that like producers that try to shift it into something that's still part of the series. But if it's someone from within that's trying to that's stepping up to do that, I think that's a bit more natural. And yeah, if it means that they get to do more films outside of it, I think we've gotten some really great actors turned directors, or still doing both. Looking forward to that. I do have to catch up on the Insidious series though. Then there was an update last week when we reported around the, I think, 48 or 49 titles that had been announced for the official Gun selection. We had to, I don't remember how I started that sentence, or kind of rattled off there. Regardless, we do have the rest of the films that are playing there. There's around the same time that the Gun Film Festival happens, a couple of adjacent films, adjacent like smaller film things are happening that are still kind of part of Gun, but they're not in the official lineup. But like for some of them, if it's a directorial debut, they're still like eligible to get like the golden camera and stuff like that. That's for directing debuts. They award that to a first-time filmmaker. But they got the Critics Week here. They got the Directors Week here. They got Acid, which is not the drug, but another institution. It's like a filmmakers program that also showcases a bunch of movies. And I think it's usually a bit of like smaller films that premiere there, but it's sometimes also just established directors that get selected from a committee of directors and critics. I think that's how it works. And last year, I can't remember if it was Critics Week. No, I think it was Critics Week where After Sun played. I think, here, over there. After Sun played, and a couple of other like pretty great films. Directors Week had Men from Alex Garland, and this year at Directors Week we are getting Pierre Nini. I think that's what his name. Nini. I don't know if he's American or if he's French, whatever. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind director returns with The Book of Solutions. It's his first film in 7 years. We'll definitely try to catch that one as well. And then we'll have a look at some of the films, but they are not really attached to like some names that might be recognizable. So once we get to talking about those films, hopefully we'll put them on your radar, but we'll have to wait and see to actually see them for ourselves. But the closing film of the festival is going to be Pixar's Elemental, that was added a couple of days ago. So we'll also be catching up with the latest from Pixar over there. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We'll do like a really extensive gun coverage once we are there in less than a month. It's less than a month away. It's approaching ever so soon, and I'm not ready yet. I I got so much to do in preparations for it, but I'm very excited. But yeah, we'll also have a link to all of those articles that list all of the full lineup, and I also made a full list over on Letterboxd that you can go check out with every single film that's going to be playing at the festival. And then very excitedly, as both of us are huge fans of the Twilight series.
Massive. Huge.
Massive. Wait, first up, have you seen, now that it's come to light that you haven't seen all of the Fast and Furious films, blasphemy, have you seen all of the Twilight films?
I've seen the last one.
You've seen, what do you mean? You've only seen Breaking Dawn Part 2?
Part 2.
Oh my god.
So funny story.
Actually hilarious.
I went on a date, I guess.
Yeah.
For this film. And I was like, yeah, I'll go watch this film. I don't care. I'll go see it. I'll go see this movie. I had no idea what was going on at all. Like, I was so
very
lost.
confusing.
And it's the one where they spin it at the end and they're like, none of it actually happened. And I just lost my mind and I was like, this is the dumbest movie ever. Anyway, that's the only Twilight that I've seen, but I'm fully around Twilight. I know what it's about, and I know that I'm definitely a team Edward.
You already know. Then I feel inclined to just go on the other side, rip my t-shirt off and go Team Jacob. Although I don't know, I think they're both really creepy. But
isn't there a Sean as well?
Sean?
Yeah, isn't there a Sean?
There might be a Sean that's like one of her classmates that tries to swoop in, but he's like never got a shot. But I don't know if that's his name. I think someone comes to mind that is also going for Bella. But yeah, no. What I find really funny about this story is what I uncovered is that the author hasn't like moved on to write different things. What they have done then is write the same book again, but just same story again, but then gender swapped the two. And then she did that like in 2014 or something like that. And then she also, a couple of years ago, did the whole story again, but retold it through Edward's perspective. And it's just, I mean, it's so funny.
If you have a massive core fan base, people are going to buy that book so that they can experience it from a different perspective instead of fan fiction.
Yeah.
Which is this the one? No, 50 Shades was the spin-off, wasn't it? One of these is like the spin-off of the other one. And I feel like Twilight's the original. Either way, that's actually, look, as much as we're going to make fun of it for just doing the same thing over and over again, beating this dead horse. Like, this is very smart to just go after. Like, if J.K. Rowling was smart, she wouldn't do spin-offs. She'd do the same. Oh, she's doing the same thing again, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, they're all in the same boat. It's just one of them writes about like horny teenagers or I guess and vampires that are a bit too old for like a 17-year-old, and I guess the other one's transphobic.
Such a very similar writing
graceful
style.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah. I think I'm still kind of more curious about the Harry Potter series, if I'm being honest, over this. But I think they basically just have like the base series to go off from. It's just a retelling of the novels again. But do you think we can expect like more of these mid 2000s to early 2010 movies that were a series to a film series to get series? Like I was thinking, like, do we get Susan Collins with the Hunger Games again? Maybe something like that.
I mean, we are getting another Hunger Games movie. I just don't.
Yeah.
When they were made at a specific time with a very specific style. It's like the Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl movies. Like, they all have that exact same early 2000s heavily CGI style, right? And that's iconic and it works. These have that early 2000s teen love style to it that doesn't age as well. And I don't want to do my boy dirty. I want Robert Pattinson to be the only Edward ever, because I don't want another Edward. I just want Robert Pattinson. If Robert Pattinson comes back though, maybe I'll go and watch it.
He's just like now the father. He could play the father now.
Yeah. No. He could play the vampire.
He could play a
bit more true to the book though. But they definitely get a 17-year-old to play Bella again.
Well,
yeah, but they
not just someone who's like canonically 17-year-old, but actually Taylor Lautner, yeah. Oh, the fucking priming thing or whatever it's called. Amazon Prime. You can imprint on a baby before it even arrives at your doorstep.
There's got to be an actress who looks really young, but is obviously over the age of 18.
Also get Rachel Zegler.
Bella Ramsey looks really young.
Bella Ramsey
definitely is over 18.
Yeah, no, I think she would make a great Bella, actually. Anyways, I don't know when we can expect this. I don't even know. Is it Paramount or no, it's Lionsgate. I don't know where they would even stream that, but I've lost count and lost track of where's going what studio is dropping whatever stuff there. So, you can be safe and secure if you turn your head around and just stay on YouTube for your entertainment, which weirdly enough has gotten a tie over to the film world with another YouTuber movie, but not in the vein of Smosh or Fred or all of those like cheaply, hey.
Those are so bad. I remember those. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I had put those in the back of my mind so far away, and you have just like steamrolled through all of my protocols to stop them from coming to the front of my mind, and you've just gotten rid of all of those. Like, my god, they are kind. Oh god, there's the Smosh. Oh god, Siri was just listening to the whole thing. They're listening.
Siri was like, "You want to order them on Amazon and watch them right now after this, forever and ever and ever." No, but Markiplier is doing his own movie, but not like Markiplier the movie. No, he's adapting a video game. It's, I guess, based on a video game. I'm not familiar with the game itself. His film is going to be called Iron Lung, and it's going to be a horror film that he is set to star, write, and direct. He's also self-financing it, and it's described as a submarine horror game. And was from last year. So I guess he's really passionate about that, and with the video game market, having like
booming
future opportunities. Yeah, I guess at the moment it's really just like animated, and it's a huge franchise. Here we are going off something way more niche, but his audience, they're I guess bringing a pull to it. And if it's good, then I guess that might be something that's great. But what do you think? Do you think someone? I'm not familiar with his content. I never really watched any of his stuff. But do you think he might be a person that's capable of like directing a solid horror flick?
I was never a Markiplier subscriber, but I knew of him and his content. I knew what he did.
Yeah.
And I also know that he has a very, 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 very big interest in switching over to making content like this. Back when YouTube Premium first became a thing, he had his own YouTube Premium show, which was actually pretty good. But when it came to like him making content, he is very good when it comes to him from a creative field. He's often been on who are those guys? Corridor Digital, Corridor's channels. He's worked with them. They're very good when it comes to obviously the storytelling side, but kind of making it a bit more YouTubey in a way. I'd like to see what he does here, and I'd be quite interested because this is obviously going to be heavily marketed as YouTuber turns director in horror game adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
But the other day we were talking about the the new A24 horror
the Fred
film
movie, just like naturally it came up.
God, even the Fred movie was at the back of my mind, and you just brought it up. Stop doing this, Ewan. Jesus. The movie by Raka Raka. That they're doing.
Talk to me.
Don't look up. Talk to me. Again, that movie's not going to be marketed as YouTubers turn directors in horror movie.
Yeah.
They're going to be marketing it as these two Australian directors. I think it's both of them. I don't know if it's just one of them, but the Australian director into horror movie, right? They're not going to market it as this. So this is unfortunately going to have that stigma to it that it's a YouTuber turned director, where other films won't have that. But hopefully Markiplier can use it to his benefit, because I have seen some of the stuff that he has done, and it has been at a higher level and to a better degree of care than what some other people did with their. Again, a great example would be like the YouTube Premium shows that they did.
Yeah, I think those were always catered towards, hey, these people have a huge audience. We can just try to extend what they already do into a longer or different kind of format, and that will drive audiences there to just watch it. But the issue there lies that you ultimately, in a different format, don't really get the stuff that works. So someone like the boys from Raka Raka, I think they've just always been great with like doing stunts and action and that type of stuff. And I feel like their stuff, their knowledge really translates a bit better to like actual TV and movie productions. So here, I think he's just someone who's really familiar with horror games. I believe he's one of the people who plays a lot of them. The only thing, because I haven't seen him in much, that I'm a bit worried about is that like he does it all, that he like writes, directs, and stars. I would hope that like he's surrounds
Ben
himself
Afflecking
with
it, baby. He's Ben Afflecking
he's doing it. I hope he surrounds himself with people who can help him out on that, because I feel like, especially on a debut, like
it's a lot.
Regardless of how talented or great you are, it's so difficult. And I think it's sick that he's self-financing it as well, which means that there's not really a lot of I guess creative control that he has.
He's Tommy Wiseau babying it. He's Tommy Wiseauing it.
Yes, he's iron lunging it, I guess, in that sense, like having the longest breath. I don't know if that's like the basis of the game, but I might check it out if this comes out anytime soon. Which it won't be for another like at least.
Can you imagine this?
Years.
Because you just spoke about how there's these different YouTubers who specialize in a certain field of filmmaking, like Raka Raka, stunts. Markiplier is doing a bit of writing, directing, and then you have like the corridor guys who are really good at special effects. Can you imagine if YouTube was just smart enough just to like Infinity Gauntlet these YouTubers who are good at all of these certain things, right? And then just make a YouTube movie, like get these, like that would be a wicked production house where YouTube has this platform where they can access creators who are good at specialized fields, that they could pull in, you know, talent to be like, hey, we're going to pay you to work on this if you can do this for us. That is a wicked opportunity that I feel like no one's capitalized on yet, because this platform that YouTube is on has so many creatives with so much potential that they're all doing their own things. Imagine if they came together and just like made a fucking YouTube movie. That's a terrible idea for like
I think that I think that will backfire really, really hard. But I think ever since the disappearance of the like YouTube Rewind, they've been scared to do stuff that is like tied to creators like directly as much, because you just got like you always have drama in there, and I don't know if that's like the way you
not if it's like, if it's run by a YouTuber, then yes, because they're gonna be like super like creative. But if you were just to say, hey, we want to do this film that we've written, we'd like to have access to your skills if they agree to it, and then you could essentially it's like a production house, right? You put out all of your
Corridor's already doing that by themselves. I don't know if they like actually would need much beyond
but that
Corridor,
I'm sure that like
really
a company like
it
Corridor would happily collaborate. Like they've collaborated in the past with like other creators, but I'm sure
they've done movies before.
And you're telling me that if they didn't waggle like a bunch of like money in your face, you wouldn't say yes? Like YouTube would have Google would have that money to do that. And
I
would say Google would.
Yeah. No, I'm just I don't think it would turn out great with the people that you would attract to this. It depends if you got a selection of it. I think you would have some sick ideas, but like dream thing, you could just like do this, throw them all together in a mid-journey sense and have something smooth come out. But that's not really how collaboration tends to work out. But as a pipe dream, as a fantasy here, I think combining them would actually be sick. And then for the special effects, you get all of the like fucked up fucked up engineers and chemists on there. Like, I don't know, you make Michael Reeves the antagonist of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like doing evil constructions of
Well,
robots
there you go.
and stuff like
You
that.
got Michael Reeves. We could do animatronics. We could do like David Cronenberg animatronics with like moving parts and stuff, right?
Could be fun, but I think a lot of them, once you have hit a certain successful like point on YouTube, unless you structure yourself like a corridor that's depending on like a staff of 20 people, then you can kind of coast on a lot of the stuff that you've set up. And I don't know if a lot of people do want to take the risk of doing something creative that they could like be forever like kind of criticized for and made fun of. But I don't know. They've been boxing each other for a while, so you never know what they'll do next. Okay.
When are we gonna box you in? No, I'm kidding.
A gun. You got 3 weeks to
gun?
Yeah, no, I don't know if I want to share this, but we got like we got an Airbnb and there's a limited space for sleeping, so we might need to box it out.
I'm
Whoever
happy
gets
to
the
have the
better
couch.
sleeping arrangement.
I was gonna say we could box to see who cooks for dinner.
Yeah, no, that sounds fun. Especially because you said you're gonna live off instant ramen for the entire week, so that would be an easy job.
If I did it in Queensland, I can do it here. In Cannes, that is.
Yes. All right. There's also just quickly the WGA strikes, the Writers Guild of America.
Another
is,
one.
Potentially going on. Well, we were discussing about the like something is coming, and I think maybe I phrased it wrong a couple of weeks ago. But they are set to go on strike starting May 1st if their conditions aren't met. And it's basically just like a bunch of adaptations for the new streaming age and media. When we talked about it, there was more about AI as well. I'm not specifically seeing that in the arrangements here. That might be like a thing that they vote on later on. So we got another strike incoming. But no, their contract is about to renew. So at this point, they can have a bunch of renegotiations. I forgot the end in there. But yeah, it's had an historic turnout of 78% of the entire guild voting on it pretty unanimously, with 98% being for this strike if the conditions aren't met. And yeah, it's just basically because since streaming has started to really boom and we move away from cable with like 24 episode seasons to like these miniseries or like stuff that only gets 10 or less than that, they also are making less money because I think it's just that the contracts are based on an older model.
Right.
So it definitely needs like some sort of update. But yeah, the most things that would be, I guess, affected by a strike like this are like the daily stuff. So like the like what are they called, like the talk shows or whatever. But at least for I guess the movie side, you wouldn't feel it until like next year if something like that is happening. But I hope they just get whatever I hope they get whatever they want here as soon as possible, so we don't have to go on strike for too long, I guess. Simple enough. I don't know. I stand with the people in the union. I don't know if there's much of a statement here. I'll link to an article that lists also their demands that they have specifically. What is so funny about Lachlan? I don't know.
You just didn't know where to go with that one, did you? You were like, do I say I'm with them? Do I say I'm against them? It's like, come on.
No, obviously
they're not communists. They're just writers. Yeah. So I hope they get a reasonable outcome that works for all parties, that they benefit from a new negotiation so that everything is fair and it's all very humanistic and it's all within the values of being a good human being.
Yes. I also saw like something
fuck video editors. Fuck them. They can die. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, the VFX, hasn't the VFX branch tried to unionize for a while and they're still not.
I feel like they want to, and I feel like they need to with the rise of visual effects, especially with the Disney.
With Disney. Yeah.
I feel like with the recent Disney films, I think I read an article about them wanting to unionize up and create a guild to get some sort of rights, because man, I've heard some really bad stories coming out of those Disney productions, for visual effects.
I just want like the next few Marvel films to be done like they're still on strike and we just get the previous version in the theater.
Hey, you know what film we didn't
really
hear
funny.
any crunch for? Avatar 2.
Avatar. Because it took 10 years to make. Yeah.
Give every film 10 years to make. And they won't have any sort of arguments.
But I guess it did also explode the budget. But they just couldn't do it at the scale that they want to do it. For that, it's just gonna cost them even more money. But again, the article to the details about the WGA possible incoming strikes are linked below in the description as well. But let's get to what we've been watching.
Yes. Should we start off with what we've watched this week together?
Yes, with The Mandalorian.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we agree with how underbaked and how average and how half-assed everything kind of was?
Yep, we do.
Perfect.
My half-assed Mandalorian season 3 camera. So I've got a separate microphone that I'll use for this section, and I'll kind of kick back and relax. Hang on, I should probably Here we go. Kick back and relax. So Ewan, what do you think of Mando season 3?
It was like you said, half-baked, underdeveloped, and kind of rushed. It started off decent and then just became a Mandalorians show with an S at the end. And just tried to do a big old finale thing that was so convoluted. And
they did the whole introduce the villain.
Spoilers, by
right
the way,
the
for
end.
the final episode. Did they kill off Moff Gideon?
I think they killed off.
No,
I don't know if they killed off Moff Gideon because they brought up the whole cloning thing.
I guess they destroyed all of his, maybe not all of them. I
Well,
think
maybe
that
not
was
all
just
of
like
them.
a kind of a tiny,
Just the perfect ones.
like setting up that
They had Grogu genes.
Palpatine is still around. I think that's why that was done.
Yeah.
But no, what did you think of this?
I'll have
lazily
Palpatine
done?
come back. I'll see that.
No, I think it was
look,
more of a setup for episode 9.
So as soon as Moff Gideon rocked up in like the second last episode, I was like, fuck, they're doing the thing where they introduce the villain. Hang on, I need to make sure my audio is not shit.
No, don't do that. Don't
it's probably gonna be shit. Yeah, it's probably gonna be shit. I'm sorry.
It's just no audio.
the whole introduce the villain right at the end part, that's just a big red flag for me when it comes to TV shows where they talk about the big bad the entire time. And I get it, like they don't want to spend time on the villain during some massive sort of plot development and character development around the Mandalorians. You know, there's different types of Mandalorians. If you haven't seen like Clone Wars, they definitely go into Mandalore quite a bit. But they try to obviously do that in live action with this show. You haven't seen Clone Wars yet, have you?
No, but it's on my list to catch up with a bunch of them.
So you have a big
Well,
list.
I'm doing Visions at least because on May 4th we are getting a new season for that. I'm definitely catching up on that first season.
Oh wait, hang on. Visions. Oh wait, no, Visions is fine. I was thinking Tales of the Jedi. You should definitely watch Clone Wars.
Yeah, I've seen Tales of the Jedi. Right?
Yeah,
we covered that.
It
but,
gives you way more depth.
Clone Wars is a bit longer with like the six, 7 seasons.
Sorry, hang on 1 second. I'm just gonna fix the camera a little bit, but it's not so.
All right. Tell me your thoughts about it.
But like, okay, so we spoke about this really early on that I'm not watching this season. I only watched it.
Yeah.
Because I was sick this week. I was quite ill, and I decided to like watch a lot of telly, and you'll see that coming up. I didn't watch any movies because because I love cinema, and like when I get sick, I can't concentrate as well, but I can still concentrate and still focus on stuff, but not as well as I want to dissect a film. I watch TV as like my pleasure of the visual medium, right? So I decided to watch a whole bunch of TV. Mandalorian season 3 is one of them because it finally wrapped up. And I heard like, oh, this final shot of season 3, you know, you're going to go crazy. I was like, what? What fucking final shot of season 3 am I going to lose my mind to? Is that this is Grogu, like floating a frog in the air? Anyway, the whole season was just not what the other seasons have been in the past. Season 1 was this incredible story of these two characters and it led to this really sort of high energy ending, this big bad, and this massive reveal of like Luke Skywalker. Remember when we like lost our minds because Luke Skywalker rocked up in Mandalorian season 1? We're like, oh my god, deep fake Luke Skywalker, this is insane.
Yeah.
And that was probably like where they realized, oh, we're going to get a lot of interest if we expand the universe with this TV show. That's not what we wanted. As Star Wars fans, that's not what we signed on for. And that's what people of Mandalorian, they were wanting Darjing and Grogu. Darjing? Yeah, I think that's his name, Darjing. And Grogu. Like that's the story we wanted, right? We should call it the Jing and Grogu show, right? We shouldn't be calling it The Mandalorian. And you said it right at the start. It's Mandalorians now, right?
Call it Gaijing.
Daijing. Oh, yeah.
No, Gaijing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Gaijing?
Yeah.
Okay, I like it.
Word for foreigner in Japanese, you know? Then
word for what?
Would make sense for foreigner in Japanese.
Ah.
Gaijing.
I like it.
Yeah, and he would... the Grogu is the Gaijing of the Mandalorians at the moment, and he's trying to become a person of Mandalore. I don't know what they called it. Anyways, continue. Sorry. I didn't want to...
Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just that there's not much to talk about with this season. It's very bland. It's very meh. Like, I like... There's a lot of really cool sequences that I enjoyed, and there was cameos that I wanted to enjoy, but I hated. Like the Lizzo and Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd episode. I was like losing my mind, but at the same time I was like, what is the point of this? So I know that Disney has been dipping their hand a little bit into the creative freedoms of the directors and writers of the show. And I feel like this season was a big fuck you to Disney to be like, we can ruin this show if you take creative control of it. Because I felt like there had been some things that they didn't want to go down, and I think the creators of the show ruined it on purpose to sort of say F you to Disney. Because why not, right? Who cares? You can get another show. If you wanted to do creative freedom, you can get another show. But if they're going to come in on your heels, trying to be like, we want you to do this, and you're like, no, and they're going to say, and force you to do it anyway, you could ruin the other things that they told you not to touch, or like they don't care about. So I feel like season 3 is a step away, where season 4 might be a return to focus, because I don't think they're going to focus more on the Mandalorians now that they've got their homeworld set up. We had multiple different Mandalorians in the show. You know, the ones that take their helmets off, the ones that don't take their helmets off.
The one that's got a minigun, the one that's blue, the one that's...
Yeah.
We got one of every kind.
Those ones, right? And then there's the one that stole the armor and got his own spin-off show called Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I feel like now that they're put aside, we're going to get... Oh, man, my voice is really killing me right now. Again, I've been sick. Forgive me.
Yeah.
We haven't even got to the main conversation of the episode yet, and my throat's killing me, but we're doing a Star Wars thing.
You sound like Joaquin Phoenix in that. Like, you'll have a high-pitched voice the whole time?
I hope not. My voice is already very high-pitched anyway.
Not that high-pitched. I love how the Mandalorian, the Star Wars universe, is kind of set in the future already, where the writers are on strike, seemingly, and that's how you get to this season's writing. It's just also that they have, like... basically like another like self-contained spin-off that's completely a different show in that like office type of setting with the people that were captured from Moff Gideon, and that never goes anywhere. I don't know what that was. It was just so random. Like what did you make of the separate
obviously ends up being obviously that LGM 7251, whatever their name was, the scientist, and Star Fox 22, who definitely is playing Abby in Last of Us season 2, by the way. Could totally see that happening with that actress.
Yeah.
Anyway, obviously the point of that was she's still bad. She's still a baddie. She's still Moff Gideon's spy. Which makes sense, but honestly doesn't really go anywhere. And surely they, when they got back from that shock therapy session, they would have realized that that's not the setting we left it on. That's definitely not the effect we're meant to have. Anyway, there's some plot holes in this season that I can't get around. But Star Wars Disney has recently taken a downfall. And I want to be real with you for a second here. It's the reason why I haven't watched Mandalorian Season 3 is just that I did not have high expectations. And I don't have high expectations for any of the upcoming shows to be good. Which is a good thing, because if they're good, or even if they're, and hold me back if I say this, if they're great, right? If they're going to be great, I'll lose my mind, I'll eat my shoe, and I'll be watching Star Wars every Wednesday that they come out. I can't remember what day Star Wars comes out.
Wednesday.
On Disney Plus. I'll watch it. If Disney makes Star Wars good again, I will watch Star Wars week on week. And this week, I got very close to being like, I want to sit down, because obviously the new Star Wars game, Jedi Survivor, whatever it is, coming out next week.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I should go back and watch all the Star Wars movies. But I realized I don't know which order I want to watch them in. If I watch the original trilogy, I've already watched the best ones. And then I'm going to go watch the prequels, which I love because the sequels are so shit. But then I got to sit myself through the sequels. But then I'm going to go through the spin-offs. And I love some of the spin-offs. Rogue One is great. But Solo is kind of mid. And then I'm going to watch all the TV shows. And I'm going to be like, man, some of these TV shows are meant to be so good. Anyway, if Ahsoka is great, I know that Visions is probably going to be great anyway, because Visions was already great with Season 1. And that is something interesting with Star Wars. Visions is something actually interesting with Star Wars. If man, did you hear me just then? I was like, starting to sound like a nerd. I was like, Visions is the greatest thing that happened to Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back. Right? God, I hate being sick.
Well, actually, I really liked Andor.
Actually, Moff Gideon isn't really dead. We know that in episode anyway. I love Star Wars to bits because I think it's one of the IPs that can be expansive. And this week, I was watching something regarding Star Trek, and I thought, should I start watching Star Trek? I've never been a Star Trek guy, right? But should I start watching Star Trek? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I don't think Star Trek is as cool. Star Trek is nerdy. Like, it's nerdy in the sense that it's very technologically focused, where Star Wars is cool. Don't get me wrong. You can't tell me I'm wrong in that one, right? Star Trek is like lame.
Star Trek is like for the dads. You know.
Nah, Star Trek is Star Trek is for young people as well. Like I will say, it's for dads, yeah.
I guess.
But Star Trek is like, I like sci-fi, right? That's what Star Trek is. Star Trek is I like so sci-fi.
Much Star Trek.
Star Wars is, and there's also a lot of Star Wars now, right? There's more Star Trek episodes than there will be Star Wars things in terms of hour on hours, right?
It's just
but there's a lot of Star Wars stuff, especially if you think of expansive universe stuff, which they're now going to start incorporating in, which is nice. But Star Trek is for nerds who like sci-fi, because it is a bit more traditional sci-fi.
Yeah, but do they have a Christmas special?
They don't. They probably do, actually.
So.
Hey Siri,
they do, probably.
Is there a Star Trek Christmas special? Star Trek has never mounted a full-on holiday special. Oh, okay, that sucks. See,
no
not as cool.
In space.
Not as cool.
Actual true sci-fi.
See what I mean? They have not done a holiday special. So
because Christmas is
Star
so cool.
Trek is for nerds who like sci-fi. Star Wars is for everybody else who likes sci-fi. I like sci-fi.
But more importantly, people who don't like Christmas.
And people who fucking hate Christmas. Guess who hates Christmas? Me. I hate Christmas.
And I feel like...
Actually, I hate most holidays. I find them very boring.
Would you consider... No, wait, sorry. I was about to spoil this. Oh my god. Oh my god, I forgot that you're not caught up with Succession. I was about to spoil like a major
Don't
thing to
spoil
you.
Succession.
Oh my god. Yeah. No, I wanted to make a tie over, but no, you've been catching up with Succession, right?
Yes. Oh wait, hang on. And then my next.
Switch back to the actual cam. Because
Actual
Mandalorian
camera.
is done.
And now I'm going to be doing this the entire time, right? You know how in Succession they always zoom
Yeah.
in?
There you go. Yeah.
Yes. Other than now that Star Wars is over, let's get to the real TV shows that we've been watching. I've been catching up with Succession, and I've caught up all the way to season 3, episode 2.
Already?
So in
wow.
season.
Okay.
I've been sick, bro. I've been watching TV, and that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I watched a lot. Succession season 2 was phenomenal, especially by the end, that season finale where it's building up all this anticipation. They've got to pick somebody, and then Kendall, you mad dog, decides not to follow through and does his own thing. So yeah, I have to admit, this show I did not think was going to keep me hooked, but it has kept me hooked by just the amount of drama and suspense that it builds. Not as much as suspense and drama that I will say Bo was afraid put on screen today, but a different style.
Yeah.
But man,
Certainly.
it's a tense show, and I love power plays on people, like people wanting to struggle for power and people putting down other people or picking up other people, or like, anyway, that's why this show is kind of like hooked on to me. So I'm getting up to I'm getting there. I'm almost up to season 4. I've got 1 season left before I've almost caught up. How many episodes are there in season 4 right now? 5?
Tonight, wait, sorry. How many episodes are out right now? It's 3. We are getting I think we're getting episode 5 later tonight. When we
My goal is to watch the season. Wait, it's weekly, isn't it?
It's weekly. If you caught up with the season before we go to Gun, you'll be at episodes 8 of the season.
So we're gonna watch the season finale together?
Yes, the first one will premiere in Gun when we are there on the Sunday, and then the Sunday when we get back, we'll have the series finale. So yeah, we'll do some live coverage together here in person for the finale of the show.
Lots planned for while I'm in Europe, everybody. Lots planned.
So much, yes. Yeah.
Content overload. We will be running. Do you have a coffee machine, Ewan?
I do not. I was actually, I don't know why, but the other day I was thinking about that. I was like, does Lachlan want like a coffee machine? I was like, I'm obviously not getting him a coffee machine.
I will just need to get coffee.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I will need to live on. Coffee and ramen.
Water. Ramen. Yeah, I can arrange that. That can be arranged. That's why, look, I said I got a lot to prepare until, Gun is around and Lachlan comes here. But I by the way, I don't live in Gun, but we'll do something after Gun as well. But it's just making all the preparations and demands that Lachlan has. Like he wants the 5-star experience here in Zurich.
Literally.
Here in Switzerland. Yeah.
Breakfast in bed every morning.
Exactly.
Ironed clothes.
I have like I have like 7 pairs of kittens here. If you've seen them in the background, I do have kittens, but if Lachlan arrives and he doesn't like them, I have a couple on standby that I can just fill them in.
Actually, thank you for reminding me. I'm putting it on my thing. I need to pack antihistamines if I'm going to be going over to your place with kittens.
Oh wait,
because I'll probably explode.
Allergic? Yeah,
I'm not allergic, but like certain kind of like hair kind of like sets me off. But it's fine.
Yeah. Thanks
for reminding me, because I probably almost
bad
died.
at the moment. My complete apartment is covered in cat hair because I haven't let them outside yet, and they are shedding everywhere. It's literally everywhere. But we're getting a bit off track. But speaking of the Europe, you also watched a bit of Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso,
I guess,
yes.
the latest
I watched
episode?
the Amsterdam special, I guess they're referring it to, where they go to Amsterdam. Once again, I will continue on to say that this season has been quite boring.
I guess.
Right.
Not much has happened. I haven't really enjoyed myself with this season. I get it. It makes you feel good. It's a good feel good show, but honestly, it's lost its charm. That's all I've got to say. Because finally, I watched the first episodes of Beef, and I have to admit, I can see the charm, the appeal. I'm excited to continue watching the season of Beef, and then finally logging it on Letterboxd because it's a Letterboxdable mini series.
Because at the moment it is only one season, but by the time you get up to the finale, I'm not going to spoil it, of course. But some people were talking about the season.
Anyway, that's what I've been watching.
It's not a setup. It's not a setup, but it could potentially just if they want to do it, and it's been doing great. Apart from the bit of a controversy that came out for one of the stars regarding them. But yeah, that's all you've been watching.
It's everything I've been watching.
Yes, we are already kind of running late, so I'll keep it really brief here with the stuff that I watched. I mentioned at the top, I watched 2 Amazon shows. One of them is with Ana de Armas and Chris Evans called Ghosted, which is this like romance thing, but then it turns into a spy story. For the first 10 minutes, it feels like ChatGPT has been fed with the initial logline of Before Sunrise and just done that like 15 times over until it's become a horrific abomination of what that was, and then it just does something completely different. It's weird because wait, did I say Amazon? I said that wrong at the start. I'll leave it in because it's blatantly wrong, because this is an Apple thing, and I just said it's Amazon. Both starts with A, but both of them also have pretty much unlimited money. Apple has a bit more of that, but they pack like 4 different cameos in the span of like a minute or 2 for no reason whatsoever. And it's like really big names as well. Just for the reason of like, I guess, making a joke out of it. And it's really not funny. But they just spend like probably a couple million on a silly little sequence there. So they can flex on all of the other streaming services because they just got the bank. And then the other thing that I also thought, well, this one is actually on Amazon. It's called Dead Ringers. It's with Rachel Weisz, and you get her twice. She plays a set of twins. One of them is like the slightly better one, and the other one's a bit more evil. And they are both hospices, I think, or they're doctors. They deliver babies, and it's very much like set in this world where everyone's kind of just like assholes. It feels a bit like Succession, but hospital in a sense, and not really up to that level. I think it's a bit much at times, but the dinner scenes, they have a couple of like meetings at dinners that are unbearable to watch, just because like you hate all of the people there, and that's how you're supposed to feel. But it was hard to get through. But they're also constantly horny in this as well. It's cleverly written at times, but at other times it's just a bit too much. Then I watched Florence Pugh in A Good Person. We also got Morgan Freeman in there, about a woman who accidentally kills her fiance's sister and her husband, and orphans the child that they have, and is then just like a wreck. And then she's trying to come back from that. She develops an addiction to opioids, and it goes into that. I think it's pretty solid. It does become a bit cheesy at times, and it's not like that well written, but Morgan Freeman and Florence Pugh got some like stunning performances in there. And it's also directed by Zach Braff, I think is his name. It's one of his, I think, first movies, might even be his directorial debut. Then I watched The Pope's Exorcist. Russell Crowe, the Kiwi guy, speaking Italian in this for like a big chunk of it as well. I was surprised. And it's just a standard Exorcist movie. It has a surprising amount of gore and like blood and stuff. It actually earns its R rating, and was fairly entertained. It's nothing special here, nothing new, but it was fine. And then 1001, the Sundance premiere, finally got a VOD release as well. and it's great. It's a story about someone who just got out of prison, and then she snatches up a boy that's supposedly her son, and then it just goes through the years of them living together and struggling, and it actually comes together by the end of it as like a really emotionally engaging drama about about the construction of a family. And then finally, Lachlan, I don't know if you're familiar with any anime. I think you don't watch that much. I've been trying to get into it a bit more recently. Makoto Kinsai, I think is his name. I'm hopefully not wrong on that name because I didn't have it written down. But he's the director of Weathering With You and Your Name. He has a new movie called Suzume out, which is basically in the same vein of like these two star-crossed lovers who are affected by an environmental disaster. Pretty much his last two films were as well. And it's stunning to watch. It basically does like a whole road trip down from, I guess, the southern islands. I think it starts somewhere in Osaka, or even, no, it starts a bit even south of that, and then goes, I think it doesn't go all the way up to Hokkaido, but it goes up to Tokyo and whatever. And it just gives you these stunning frames of, I guess, the cities, like the nature, the landscape of Japan. And it looks amazing. The story is all right. If you like Your Name and like his storytelling, then you'll probably love it. I thought it was pretty good. Just standing out, especially visually. And I feel like it's great. It's currently in theaters. Get that theater experience. For this film, it is actually worth it. Out of all of the films I just talked about, I think Suzume is the most that I would actually recommend a theater experience as well. But that's how I've been watching, which brings us to the end of what we've been watching. And now, well, I guess we all also been watching this film together. I want to stall because I'm kind of afraid, actually, no pun intended here, to talk about this film because it is quite a lot. It is quite difficult to get into because it's certainly a film that's unlike any other film that's ever been before. It is truly unique in one sense. If that's good or not, we'll get into that. But let's get to BEAU is Afraid. A paranoid man embarks on an epic odyssey to get home to his mother. That's BEAU is Afraid from third-time director Ari Aster. His third collaboration with the much-acclaimed indie studio A24. Had a great opening when it played in very limited release, just in 4 theaters in the States, racking in $80K per theater, $320,000 for just 4 theaters over like the span of the week or like a weekend. That's incredible. So you can see that he has the pull, that he has the range, that Ari Aster is someone who did break out, especially with Midsommar, into the mainstream with his films and with his horror films. Now here you have a film that's costing somewhere upwards of $35 to $50 million. His first 2 were done for $10 and $9 million respectively. That's also A24's biggest film yet. Last year's Best Picture winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once, had a budget of, I think, roughly 30 million is what they had, or 25, something like that. So this is now their biggest film, and it's been received as you'd expected. Once you've seen it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Kind of in a mixed way. On Letterboxd, it's a 3.7, on IMDb, a 7.4, and on Metacritic, maybe most telling that some of the critics aren't vibing with it, is a 62, which is a bit low for a film like that, I guess, that is trying to play into a lot of the critics' minds. But I think having broken out of that, like, niche of indie theater A24 filmmaking that usually gets appraised a lot, it's also open it up for a bit more of criticism. And I also linked below, if you're interested, Ari Aster's shorts, all 7 of them that he's done so far, because there's one called BEAU that is kind of tackling a part of the opening that's really similar in its storytelling that is based on. And I ended up catching all of the shorts, and you can see that BEAU is Afraid is really the combination of all of these ideas that Aster has expressed in short film form before, now come together into like this big 3-hour long epic. So, Lachlan, we're gonna get into non-spoiler thoughts. Before we get into spoilers, make sure to, I guess, go see the film. I think I can recommend it if you're up for it. Go sit there and just have it experience you, and you experience it. It's kind of a give and take, you know. It gives, but it also takes. But if you'd had to, I guess, recommend it to someone, who would you recommend this to, and who would you say no? This movie is probably not for you.
I honestly want to recommend this movie to anybody who wants to have an interesting time at the cinema and doesn't mind spending 3 hours confused and not really sure, and then spending the drive home also confused and unsure, and then sitting here recording a podcast 6 hours later, still confused and unsure with what they've just seen.
It doesn't get better. I've seen it 2 weeks ago and I'm still confused, by the way. Man.
There's a lot we can talk about with Beau is Afraid. There's a lot that we can dissect. And there's a lot to praise. There's a lot to chew. There's one thing that I can definitely say, and it's go see this movie in cinemas. It's one of those once in a lifetime sort of movie going experiences that you might not get to experience ever again. Unfortunately, that it's just that films like these don't get made every other day. This is definitely Ari Aster's here's two for you, here's one for me sort of filmography, because out of his main stuff, he's done 3 films: Hereditary, Midsummer, and now Beau is Afraid. And Beau is Afraid is a massive departure from the previous 2 films. And it doesn't start like that. Funnily enough, it starts very similar to Midsummer in the sense that it starts off with this, without spoiling it too much because we're not getting the spoilers right now, but Midsummer opens with a very traumatic event. And Beau is Afraid sort of does a very similar thing where it opens with a very traumatic event, just a scene, right? There's no dialogue really. It's all just a scene. And then
do you mean like the actual big scene or the big first set piece?
I'm talking about the very first thing that happens, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's the same with Midsummer.
Yeah.
The very first thing that happens in Midsummer is a plot point or a thing that happens, and eventually it's brought back to the main character's point, attention later on, right?
Yep.
Which I can explain this a little bit clearer when we get into non-spoiler talk, but just generally, that's how it starts. And I was like, oh, this is very similar to the opening of Midsummer in the sense that here's a little scene, and now here we are with the main character.
He very much starts off his films with like a locked off camera that is then starting to pan or move. That's kind of how he does all of his films, and then he kind of gets more like dynamic with the camera. But he does a lot of like these pans. And
it opens like a very, because if it opened up with how weird this film gets, just like that, I feel like more and more people would have walked out of the cinemas to this film, because this film can get very, very jarring, very blunt, very weird, very quickly. And I think, Ewan, would you agree in saying that Ari Aster is probably one of the best directors working today?
I after seeing his shorts, I was like, okay, no, this is just a guy. And then I rewatched Hereditary and Midsommar, and I was like, oh no, this is a fucking guy. This is a lad. Holy shit.
Would you also say that he is probably one of the best modern horror directors? Other than maybe Robert Eggers?
Robert Eggers, is the second one that comes to mind. Yeah.
I feel like The Lighthouse and The Witch with Hereditary and Midsummer are some of the most important films like right now, because right now horror is, and it's funny to say it because like Scream 5 spoke about this, it's in its elevated horror moment. A24 made its money by making elevated horror. Making art house horror.
I rewatched Hereditary. This is a slight spoiler again. Not really for Hereditary, but I said like Hereditary is elevated horror because it ends in a treehouse.
Very funny.
So that was my joke of the week.
Yeah, joke of the week.
Mhm.
Can we get a soundboard? Can we get a soundboard for the podcast?
We might get one when we are in person. We might be able to organize that.
I want control of that. Anyway,
You can, sure.
because like 20 years ago, like horror was Paranormal Activity, right? And like Blair Witch, right? Found footage.
Yep.
That was horror back then. And maybe some
Mhm.
gory stuff. And like 30, 40 years ago, it was slashers and like paranormal horror, but still slasher in a way. But more recently, it's this art house horror. The thing is, I think that Hereditary and Midsummer are very similar to that. They're art house horrors, where this is going even further. Beau is Afraid is going even further. And the only thing that I could think about when watching this movie, right? The only other film or other set of films that I've ever felt this strange about is David Lynch.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There is such a Lynchian vibe throughout this entire film. It's this surrealist journey we go on with Beau, because obviously this film is pretty much about fear. It's about anxiety, dread, this fear that Beau has. He's afraid, obviously, and this
and mommies
over the top, exaggerated feelings that he gets put on screen. And there's a lot of things they do visually that don't happen in the real world, that we watch this and we go, there's no way that would actually happen in the real life. But with this film, we come to accept it. Very similar to David Lynch, right? You watch a David Lynch film and you watch it and you go, this makes no sense, but I like it. And that's what Beau is Afraid is kind of like, which is why I have given it such a high score, which we'll eventually get to. But the reason I liked Beau is Afraid so much is that it reminded me so much of like a Eraserhead and other David Lynch films. Not all of his, like, I wouldn't say it reminds me a lot of David Lynch's like mainstream stuff, because a lot of his like Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, it's obviously a bit more of a crime drama side of it. Yeah. Where this doesn't really have that. I'm thinking more of like the early like shorts that David Lynch works on. The real Lynchian stuff, the real stylized stuff that David Lynch does. So yeah,
I really hope he does like another movie, so I have a chance to like have a reason to go revisit some of his stuff, because I struggle to fit it into my schedule.
It makes me want to rewatch his stuff like right now. But no, this film, it's like, it takes so much inspiration from that style of David Lynch, but also it's a style that's just throughout film itself. It's just taking a lot of really strong ideas and focusing it on them. The whole dream world, this is reality, this is not a reality, over exaggerated in your head sort of experiences we see on screen don't really happen in the real world. It's just that Beau is Afraid is only in the perspective of Beau. We get no other outside perspectives, which is why it's such a weird and wacky world, because we're getting it from one perspective. Where in other films where we like watch someone trip on acid, for example, we usually then cut away to them
the outside
in the real world,
perspective, right?
We don't get that in this, which is why it's so over the top and so exaggerated, and that's why I loved it. I loved it so damn much. It was such a fun ride. So you asked me, who would I recommend this film to? If you love surrealist, like expressionism, sort of like fucking, if you love like film history, you'll love Beau is Afraid, because you'll pick this apart and you'll be like, I get where this kind of originated from and why they're going down this path, because things like non-linear editing, because like even though this is pretty linear, like it goes around quite a bit and then comes back to a point. Like it doesn't really follow a very solid structure, and like the narrative doesn't, like, it makes sense, but it really goes around the place, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot my book.
I mean,
jacket.
he's just
Talk.
oh wait, sorry, what?
Now keep talking.
Huh?
Get my...
Oh yeah. He's just very good at having the narrative flow in, especially in the editing. It's something what I noticed with Hereditary, especially. He's such a master at like doing that, and even in his shorts, he has like a lot of these. He has like two of them that is basically just a character addressing the camera directly. It's called, I think it's basically is the one of them, and then the other one's it's life or something like that, where like they address it and it's a continuous flow of someone just narrating and entering frame and doing something, but it's got a flow about it that just kind of works, and that's in all of his feature films that he's made so far. I think that's the strongest thing that I can really feel, that he visually is really tying them together in an interesting way. Although I did feel in parts that you could feel that he has a bigger budget, so he can do more with the background, which went beyond world building and became a bit more distracting. A filmmaker can do whatever he wants to with. Like, it felt like I could peek behind the curtain way more, because it does feel way closer to home for him as a story he really wanted to tell. Like you said, like the one for him, that this movie is like, it feels cathartic, the way that it repeats kind of the same plot points over and over again, that can feel a bit redundant. I've heard from some people who watched it with me that did feel that like they couldn't justify the length of it just because they didn't get as much out of the repeated beats in a narrative sense. But I thought it just completely is carried by how visually interesting it stays the whole way through. Although I don't really care for Joaquin Phoenix, like for BEAU, at one point, because he is kind of a one-noted character. After a short while, I was getting a bit more annoyed with him. Although I overall stay sympathetic throughout the whole like film with him. You got a book or what?
No, it was just my notes for when I was in the cinema.
Okay.
Literally, I was like, oh, is this gonna focus? Like David Lynch vibes.
David Lynch vibes, yeah.
I also wrote down, I was like, this is the best use of 1,000 years, but I meant 1,000 miles, because it was like, and I need you.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best use of that. To be fair, it's like this film, like, whilst it's severely complex in the idea it's trying to get across, that's the reason people are so confused. It's not that this film is hard to follow. It's just that what it's trying to get across to the audience is layered of cakes. It's just layer upon layer, and it's very convoluted.
I feel like Ari Aster is a master. I would actually say a master, and even already with, especially Hereditary, with this as well, and especially Midsommar, he's a master at opening his films. I think he's one of the best to do it. So incredible. And then he tends to not lose me in a sense, but both Hereditary and Midsommar kind of have a slow build, and then they just escalate really, really quickly, where it's too much for you to all take it in one go. Which is where like the rewatchability really comes in with his films. And here I don't feel the same about like wanting to rewatch it. I'm even like, I don't know if I want to experience it again anytime soon. Because it is way more of like a staggered, like chapter like storytelling, where the conclusion of it, without obviously not spoiling here yet, is not as like rapid as some of his other films were. So like it also goes like in a stylistic sense for how he tells the narrative in a really different direction. Which is where I think some of the frustrations come in with people who already weren't maybe as big on his films and Aster's storytelling. But I would lie if I say it hooked me in for the entire runtime. I think by like the third or fourth destination, it did lose me a bit, and I really enjoyed everything at the start of the film. Do we want to get it? We can talk about performances. I'd say everyone is great, and that's all I got to say about the performances. There's no one who's standing specifically out as great or not great. Everyone's amazing. what I would give a shout out to is the extras. There's some like background work that is incredible. So shout outs to the, I guess, first and second AD on the set. They did an immaculate job with directing them. But yeah, let's get into spoilers for Boys Afraid. So, what's on your mind? What do you want to get into? What do you want to get into first?
Well, let's start by making a structure, okay?
Yes.
Because I want to be able to refer to different moments very easily,
Yeah.
right? So I've already broken it down into 5 scenes, essentially, right? And the reason I've done this is that they all have this sort of flow to it. It's Beau's house, it's the Nut house, it's Authors of the Forest, it's Mum's house, and then it's the stadium, okay? Those are the 5 scenes that happen in this film. And the most interesting thing, besides the stadium, because that is the climax of the film, it is the total accumulation of the story retold and given back to you so that you can understand who this person is, but we'll get to that. Each of those 4 other stories, Beau's house, Nut house, Authors of the Forest, and Mum's house, start off in a world of normalness. It all starts pretty normally. There's some weird aspects, right? Beau's house. You got the insanity of the people down below, right? But it looks like a normal house. It's a normal average guy's house. The same with the Nut house. Just seems like a lovely husband, wife, bit of a weird daughter who's a bit pissed off that he's in the bed. You know, the same with Authors of the Forest. Like, it's a bit strange, and this is where we start getting to the surrealist aspect where it's like, I don't think these people could actually exist, but in the sense of this story, I might as well. Like, these people just exist and they just want to tell stories and they move from place to place. And Mum's house, where it's the funeral, people are packing stuff away, yada yada. All of them, every single one of those scenes, end in some sort of massive, weird climax, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be the people going into the house in Beau's home, he leaves the door open
and
to
getting
try to get
stabbed
water.
and whatever. Yeah.
He then runs downstairs. He gets stabbed. He gets hit by a car. He's like it's insanity, right?
It's
the
also,
Nut house.
Yeah, so funny. Yeah.
Where the daughter starts drinking paint, and the mum is accusing him slowly but surely over the entire time, right? Stop incriminating yourself. Like leaving notes all the place, like Channel 78 giving him hints. And then eventually being like, you're trying to replace him, yada, yada, and then telling the other guy to hunt him down. Author of the Forest, obviously, then it's the guy that's hunting him down, taking them out. But also there's an entire little animated section in amongst that story as well, which is insane. Yeah. And then you have Mum's house, which starts off as a funeral. He then gets a bit of normalcy with sex, but there's also weirdness in that. To the point eventually she puts him in the attic, and obviously there's the attic scene, which highlights.
That's the one I couldn't make sense. I can kind of see the through line for all of the other plot points and all what he's trying to do with the attic and the big old balls. I couldn't make sense of it. I said, like, you know I described this part of the movie as the attic, the boat, and the big old balls, inspired by Narnia.
So, you know how I was like, this is like a David Lynch film? I was like, I just need some sort of weird creature to... Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Like some weird-looking creature,
enough.
right? Whether it's like the chipmunk lady and like Razorhead, or it's like the baby from a Razorhead. It's like, there's got to be some sort of weird creature. There it is. It's a giant dick and balls. It's his dad. Or is the dad the starved one? I can't remember. Anyway.
No. It's another version of himself that's up there. It's also played by Joaquin Phoenix. So the other person that was him, in the attic is not his dad, I wasn't sure about that as well, the dick is his dad, That's just like, I think it's just like, because it's so surreal, it's just the representation of like, he's so insignificant and non-important that like the manifestation of how the fears that she has instilled into him early on has just basically reduced him down to this being. And it's a bit weird of like where you can see, because it never plays in any sort of reality in that realm. So it's like it's pointless to like kind of then pick and choose what you want to take from it. It's, I think, more about like how I guess all of these fears and anxieties, and that relationship between him and his mother are getting represented visually. And also, I think the soundscape for this is again, he's just great with everything.
So
he does
good.
like a great score. I think he's just really solid. For me, the main critique point usually comes into like, do you overall vibe with the story that he's trying to tell? Because that's the most like controversial thing he usually does. But all of the technical aspects are always like outstandingly great. But yeah.
Obviously,
Okay,
the
so
story
we've
this
broken
time,
it down into
if
the
we
parts, right?
agree, if we
Yeah.
agree, the story
Mhm.
this time he's trying to tell is the perspective of somebody who suffers from a massive amount of anxiety,
Yeah.
fear, dread. Is that sort of what we're going down? Like how it can be, how it's the perspective of it from someone's head, right? How it can be
Yeah.
blown out of proportion. Is that sort of the message
Yeah.
he's trying to get across? Because that's what I got
I don't know
essentially
if
from it.
yeah, that's part of it, but then also
There's probably
I think
more.
a lot. No, I think the anxiety is like, yeah, that's the thing that we see, but I think it's also like the just kind of being led, being morphed into this person by his mother, I think, and then
Yeah.
like the guilt that throughout the whole run line. I thought when we get that suburban mom thing where she went, well, like, stop incriminating yourself. I was like, what the fuck, was there like something that he did with the daughter that's like where it went to first for me. But I think it was like, hey, stop incriminating yourself, and for reasons to stay here longer, you got to be with your mom. So it like
Yeah.
built onto that guilt. That kind of only made sense after I've watched it later on. I was like, hold up, that's not, I guess, what he went for. And then it kind of ends up being this really simple thing at the end of the day about like a mother's guilt bestowed onto a guy that's her son that's filled with anxiety, and that's the whole film. Essentially, at least to me, that's kind of what I'm taking away from it.
Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, then he also like places stuff in there that's like obviously over the top, but still rooted in reality. With like, I guess he's somewhere. I don't know if it says where he lives, but it feels very much like LA, like the huge problem with homelessness that they got there, and it feels like it's at least like slightly touching on that stuff. And I know because he's done films about that before, like his short films. Let me actually pull it up real quick so I can. Yeah, C'est la vie, which is something that you'll learn because you're going to Cannes soon. So you do have to learn a bit of French. That means that's life. C'est la vie. And that's about like a homeless guy on the streets, and it basically tells a story, and he addresses the camera directly. And there's also the short BEAU, which is basically just that first scene with him losing the key, and then I guess being paranoid about someone coming in and like getting stabbed as well at the end of it as well. There's also he also has a short about a guy who has a shrinking dick. When I watch the shorts, I was like, there's a lot of like themes that he packs into this that are obviously like kind of important to him. What the scene that didn't make like that much sense to me for how much focus it got, other than being visually interesting, was the whole hallucination fantasy thing in the forest. What, because that's the most out there, I guess, part of the movie. I'd say, I guess, like, just for that short bit. What did you make of that one?
It's sort of the midpoint, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
it's sort of him and his mind wandering where he could be if he didn't have this sort of existential, over the top, overreacting mentality. That's where I thought it was like the alternate reality of where BEAU could be. Because again, it's not obviously set in this reality because it's set on like a farm, and it's not set in like 2023. It's set in, back before technology existed, which I couldn't think of a date then for some reason, because I didn't want to say
Is
like
it
1900, but I didn't want to say like 1800. Anyway,
Yeah.
a non-specific time before the age.
It could
of the
be like a
internet
ride
and the
around
age of
Iraq.
vehicles.
The Iraq War
s-
soon after that, with the like the with the son that died in the war.
Yes, that sounds
maybe
fair.
around that time.
Anyway.
And like the daughter also has like K-pop stuff on her walls. I think that's like
it's all K-pop stuff.
That's pretty.
Well,
recent.
that's all set in 2023. 2023 stuff, but like
it's
when
different.
like the
different rooms are set in different times.
Yeah,
it's really comfortable.
I just felt that it was more of a alternate universe moment, an alternate timeline that he could have been on if he was not as afraid. He could find a woman, they could settle down, have 3 kids, and then it was like.
But even that is like filled with guilt, you know. In his whole thing, he can never escape it. Even in his fantasy, he's like not seeing them for their whole lifetime, and then he.
But
just
not for the entire
them.
moment. For a moment, he was happy, and then it came back. So it's just a different timeline. It's just I feel like it was just a bit of fun. I feel like Ari Aster was like, I want to do something fun. Yeah. Fuck it. What can I waste their $35 million on, right? And that's what he did.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's just that's the one point where I'm like I'm slowly starting to lose interest in the narrative because it feels like the beats that we try to hit repeat and they don't like deepen the character for me, which would justify why it goes on longer. But then I think ultimately it just prolongs the time until he gets home, which is just also an increase of guilt, and it also builds it's supposed to build like the anxiety in the audience as well, like because like he's still like not getting there, and then we still hope for some sort of, I think, resolution for him, that he gets to, I guess, meet his childhood crush, and that's like the solution here, where he finds the independence through, I guess, also a sexual act that he's deprived himself of just because he's also been so afraid, which is such a bizarre thing that like he says that all the men in his lineage die as soon as they come.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And
I found that very funny.
So I guess, why does it kill Elaine then? I was a bit I get it's just like it's not gonna be a good ending for Beau. I was like, why does it kill her? I was a bit like, huh?
Because guess what? It doesn't have to make sense, Ewan.
I guess it doesn't
have to make sense. It just has to.
We live in
move
Mother's
the story
world.
along. She had to get out of the way.
I didn't know, I know that video game movies are booming, but I didn't know they adapted The Binding of Isaac. But I guess you got it here. Beau is afraid.
I've never played The Binding of Isaac. Can you explain?
If you know the game, that's actually such a great joke. It's just like you're a crying little baby who has to go up against your mother, and she's like blaming you for stuff, and there's all sorts of creatures. It's like a roguelike where you do it over and over again, and you unlock new stuff. It's a great game, but it's like when was it popular? It was like really popular in 2012.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a reference. Okay. Well, no, they had like it's still. I think it's still kind of relevant because they made like new games and new extensions for it. It's a really like deeply replayable game. But yeah. What else do we want to talk about? I was joking on the trial. I was meant that because then he ends up, killing his mother, in that sense, right? And then he's on trial.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey, I don't even know if I want to talk about it because I don't know what it's all about.
It just happens. It's like it's you can't really talk about it and explain it because it's like explaining a dream to someone, and it's like,
you have
wait,
to
did
watch
that really happen?
That's the thing. To anyone who hasn't seen the film, this is going to make no sense. You have to watch it. And you have to experience it yourself, and you're going to go, "Oh, okay, I see what these guys are talking about." It's odd, right? It's a weird, uncomfortable. I have no idea what's going on, sort of film that only people who have seen the film, if you start explaining it to them how you feel, they kind of go, "Oh no, I see what you mean. I see what you mean." But if you try to explain it to someone, you try to explain what happens. Like if you just try to explain the opening of the film of, let's say, like Beau's houses, right? Birth as well, right? Yeah. Audio jump scare right at the start. Scare the fuck out of me. If you just try to explain the opening house scene to somebody, right? Yeah. And then you do the whole, and then he wakes up and there's a guy standing above him drilling into the wood, and sawdust is going onto his head. And people are going to be like,
huh?
they're gonna be
Why is he sleeping on the scaffolding?
I get that.
Yeah.
Like, how is that the weirdest part, right? That people went in, like, he left the door open. People got into the building. That's fair, right? And then someone closes the door and he can't get back in, right? And he falls asleep outside. That makes sense. But the strangest part, the most uncomfortable part, is that somebody decided to start working on their job, not waking up this random guy sleeping on the work construction site, and he's just drilling into this piece of wood, and sawdust is going down onto his head. Like, you have to explain to somebody, it was like that. People are going to be like, what? That sounds like the strangest part. Why? Yeah. And then they don't talk. They don't communicate at all. Bo just moves on. That's the strangest part.
He's really
part
invisible
of that
in that whole opening sequence. He's so invisible to a lot of the people, or he's just like he's like an NPC, and then they engage with him in an NPC like manner. It's like, oh, we see a playable character. Let's, I guess not an NPC. Let's attack him, and that's like how he is. He's truly, Tenet had the main character be called the protagonist. I think you could also call Bo here the protagonist in the story, and it would make a lot of sense. What do you think about like the change of Disappointment Boulevard to Bo is Afraid for the title?
I still prefer the name Disappointment Boulevard. I don't know what it is. I feel like it's a cooler name, but I guess that Bo is Afraid makes more sense and makes it a little bit easier to understand what the film is about. If you go Disappointment Boulevard, it's probably a bit about the mother's disappointment, less about the whole fear factor side of it.
Which isn't really the focus of the story, right?
That's come from the back of my mind as well. Fear Factor. Remember the show Fear Factor?
Yeah.
With Joe Rogan?
That
was in the back of my mind, and I just brought it to the front of my mind like you did with Twilight. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, with Fred. So many Smosh movie. Yeah, I can trigger him now, and he just goes into like flashback.
Actually, speaking of someone who does that, the Dune calculator dude, Steven Henderson. I know he said there was like no like standout performances, but when he rocks up at the mother's place and he's just in the background smiling,
it's so good. It's
so
good. Evil.
It's so good. Because he knows he's not a good person. He's just been this bad, like, double agent. It is so good that he's just smiling the entire time. Oh, man.
It is a bit Truman Show-esque, the whole thing. If you break it down, the way he's also, I think, on the boat. That's also very Truman, isn't he? On the boat at some point to escape, I think. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen Truman. But, yeah.
did you know I've got the same speakers that they have. They've got Dolby Atmos speakers.
Yeah.
I've got the same Sonos speakers that they have for like playing Bo's like recordings. I'm like, hey, that's literally my speaker that I have for my surround sound. Yeah. Also the same like mounting grip to mount on the wall. This is my setup. Dolby Atmos certified, baby.
Marketing has been done. Maybe they took it off from you. That's like how involved this thing gets. I think it's really meta. Detailed with the production design as well. There's like the brand that's, I think, it's not the Modest brand, but like that MW brand that's just like kind of around. I was thinking
they do everything.
The mother is a huge W. Yeah, that he's like dependent on that. I don't know what it stands for, what the actual brand is called, but it feels like mother upside down, just there the whole time, whichever way you look at it. It's just mom.
Ewan, I'm gonna blow your mind right now. It's literally just her initials.
Wait, what's his last name? Bo.
What? Wasserman?
Wasserman. Oh my god, Mona Wasserman. Oh my god.
It's literally just her initials.
Bro. Yeah.
Here you are. You're just like, all right. It's something deep. Like it's mother upside down. It's the upside down. It's 11. It's Stranger Things.
That's not what I meant. I just meant it looks
and
like
I'm like,
it's just
bro,
M.
it's just her initials upside down,
okay.
right side up. They go both ways.
God damn it. It looks like an M each side.
Like the fucking English teacher who's always like, just like deconstruct the meaning from this sentence, and it's just like, I went and took a shit, and it's like that's literally just what he meant, man.
I'm also reading for the first time The Catcher and the Rye, so I'm in the midst of becoming like an annoying English literature person.
Oh, that was good.
But yeah, no, it's just ever present in the production design everywhere, and it's like he still uses all of that stuff. But yeah, it also has, I think it's shot on film, right? It has like that film look to it, like that.
That's a
quite
great
bit.
question. Should we? Okay.
Fact check.
Wait. Before you fact check, I don't think it was shot on film.
I will
think it's
say
digital.
it was, for the sake of the argument.
I'm gonna find it. Got it.
Sony, yeah, that's not, no. Negative format. Wait, what? No, it's a 4K master. Yeah, okay. Alright, it's a Panavision lenses,
I'm
a
the
Sony
tech guy.
Cine Alta Venice. That is, yeah, fuck yo. Yeah.
I'm the tech
Okay.
guy. I'm so good.
So it was not shot on film, but it does have like the, wait, what did I want to write down? I wrote scope of film, and I have no idea what I meant by that. Anyways, I think another discussion that
Widescreen? Are you assuming
no,
it's
the scope, or the, what's the other one? Flat format for that. No, I work at a cinema. I wanted to bring up the discussion for, I guess, this whole movie. Do you think it is just more art, or is it more just like chaos on screen?
It's
I know it's a
definitely
really reductive.
art. It's
Yes.
definitely art, but it's chaotic art, if that makes sense.
Right. Yes. So whenever you have two options, combine the two, and you get the best of both worlds, and it's most like Arias. I actually agree. I think it also is like, at points it does feel like that Sisyphus story, like the guy who was punished to roll a stone up the hill, and it kept rolling down and just continued to do that. And that's just him in like the caged expectations and the anxiety that has been bestowed to him by his mother, bestowed onto him by his mother. And it does feel like, in parts, at least, I think also probably intentionally, that like that does get repetitive, that does get frustrating. After a while, I was just getting a bit annoyed with Joaquin Phoenix, like apologetic baby voice of like, oh, I feel so sorry, blah, 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 blah. It was a bit much. I was like, come on, man, come on, have some, at least at one point, please have guts. Just say something at one point in the movie, and he just never does. And it's just so more depressing that like by the end of it, he just dies. He dies, and he has never changed. He's just the same person. He just had sex, I guess. That's the only thing he like actually did, like, that's kind of new, or how his character progressed as a person. And
I mean,
it's just sad. He met his dad, and then he saw his dad be killed in front of him. That guy, who's also, we haven't talked about him yet, at the house. I think that's like another thing where he's quite critical of like US culture. Hopefully it's also doesn't stand for the initial step. That's just what I read, that like it's like the suburban household who's like holding on to the nature that like they got a son that they lost in a war, and they worship, they pray him, they pray for him, they like want to have his presence be known, and they, you know, and then they got like this other person who's riddled with trauma, likely to probably have like killed, just a killing machine, in their backyard, just wreaking havoc. And yeah, also the daughter, the paint thing. What did he make of her killing herself with paint?
Tony is my name. That's such a good line.
Yeah,
sorry, what was your question?
What did you make of that scene? Because it's like, why does she go the lengths to, I guess, kill herself? You know, it's just because she's not seen, or what do you think that it means for like BEAU? Why does he choose for that character to go there, other than like the catalyst for him to move to the next thing?
I don't understand this film, man. What am I supposed to say?
Because I was looking, I was watching, and it's like, what is happening? What is happening? I was like getting panicked for him.
she is
come on.
ignored by her parents, and
Yeah?
they're trying to replace
Pack in
him.
3 different movies that have the inspiration here to go full film nerd. Otherwise, no one can take your opinion seriously because you always got to base it off of some other media.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think that wraps it up for the thoughts that we can kind of gather together for this film. Overall, go experience it yourself. If you've listened to our spoiler thoughts now, go see it. It didn't make any sense probably for you whatsoever. If you watched the film, let us know what you made of it. What was like some of your highlights? Let us know. I'd be really interested in what you guys made of it. But I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Which is the lowest rating I've given to an Ari Aster film so far. Initially, I had Hereditary also at a 3.5 out of 5. Bumped that up to like a 4.5 when I rewatched it last night. What about you, Lachlan? Where does it rank for you in his filmography?
Oh boy!
I guess also at a rating out of 5.
Out of 5.
Yeah.
On Letterboxd, where I review all of my movies.
Why do you always mention that? People know
because I'm shouting at my Letterboxd.
Thiele.
I gave it a 4.5.
Thiele. 4.5, right. Okay.
Why? Because I love this style of film. I said it in my notes when I wrote it down. I said, this is my movie. I said, this is great. I'm uncomfortable. Always with water. Shout out to Gremlins. Don't put them with water after midnight or whatever the fuck it is. They turn into a gremlin. Best use of 1,000 Miles. Great song. Tony is my name. What else did I say? Drax versus Penis, because it looked like Drax by stabbing the...
God, yes.
Right? It's a great... Can you make sure you show the clip of him doing that inside the thing from the movie so everyone knows what I'm referring to? My greatest fear, getting caught having sex in my mother's bed. That's a great one. Went super lynchy. And the rest of this, I cannot figure out what I wrote because it was very dark in the cinema, because it was a very dark film and I couldn't really read what I was... Like, most of it looks like it's been handwritten by like a serial killer, because it goes up and down, things like that. Anyway, I like this film. It's not for everybody, but for me, this is my favorite Ari Aster film.
Really? Okay. Wow. Cool. Right. Where do you do the other films rank? What is your second
I would
favorite?
probably say it goes backwards. It would go like, I really like I liked Hereditary, but I enjoyed Midsummer's performances from the Florence Pugh. Yeah. Like, I felt like that performance really captivated me and held me along with the story, where I didn't really have that with the actors and actresses in Hereditary. Who's in Hereditary again?
Toni Collette.
Toni Collette, yeah. Other than Toni Collette, Toni Collette's great. But for me, it pretty much will go Beau is Afraid, Midsummer, Hereditary. That's just because that's the order I've watched it in most recently. I'm sure, like you, if I go back, it might become
for me, it's the other way around.
Midsummer and Beau is Afraid. But for me, Beau is Afraid is so up my alley in terms of its weirdness compared to the other two. Again, I'm not a big horror guy. I don't go out to seek horror films. So when I went to watch this film, and it wasn't so much horror, it was more surrealism and weird, wacky, inflatable tube man ness. Yeah. Weirdness. I mean, I enjoyed myself.
That's really
that's why
I remember you, I remember in film school you pitching once that, like, I don't know, you wanted to do like either a movie with Satan or Jesus who works at a lemonade stand or whatever, and you pitched that. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
So
I also
could
said,
see,
because
like,
we went around and we're like, who's your favorite director? And at the time I was super obsessed with David Lynch, because I was like, when I first really discovered his filmography, and I said that David Lynch was like my favorite director. Because I went down his his filmography, and it's insane, like, how great which is why when he was in The Fabelmans as the director, I lost my mind, because I was like, I fucking love this man. He's so great. I put him up on a pedestal. He's awesome. And also I love the behind the scenes stuff where he's so brutally honest. Like, they ask him if he wants to like cut a scene short. He's like, cut a scene short? Why would I want to do that?
fuck you. Get the fuck off my set. Like, he's just so fucking funny.
He's great. Lachlan, let's get to our double feature pick of the week for Beau is Afraid, which I guess continues down the line of Lynch for you.
Yeah, everybody, don't hate me. I'm picking Eraserhead as my double feature because there's so much from that film that I love. It's sort of like David Lynch's directorial debut that he worked many years on, essentially, to get that film off of the ground and made. As I said, a lot of David Lynch's mainstream stuff doesn't really have as much of a surrealism vibe as his independent stuff. This reminded me a lot of Eraserhead, and that's why I'm picking it as my double feature.
I'm sticking with the theme of, I guess, the mother being the biggest focus here. I'm not going with mother with an exclamation mark from Darren Aronofsky, though. I'm going into a different realm here with the South Korean film from Parasite director Bong Joon-ho, with a movie called Mother, with an overprotective mother over her son. It's an amazing film. If you haven't caught it already, go give it a try. It's got similar vibes as well, I guess. Not as crazy and out there with the visuals, but I guess kind of with a mother taking up control for her son in that sense. I don't know. It's just kind of made the more sense for me. Also, kind of not really double feature esque, but connected is all of the films that Ari Aster himself selected for a recent showing at the Lincoln Theater in New York. There was the films The Birds, Closely Watched Trains, Cowards Bend the Knee, Defending Your Life, Invention for Destruction, Johnny Guitar, A Matter of Life and Death, Playtime, The River, Wake in Fright, The Wolf House, and then finally, I guess, it capped off with Beau is Afraid. So all of those really closely connected to this film because they were in part also inspirations for Ari Aster. So go give them a try if you want to expand the world around Beau is Afraid. Now, if you go out and watch some new films this week, there's a couple of new releases. We got Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, playing in, I think, wide release already in the States. We also got Polite Society. That's, I think, a film that played at Sundance at some point. Maybe I'm wrong, but it has played at some festival before. And then on Disney Plus, we are getting Peter Pan and Wendy by, I'm blanking on his name right now, but David Lowery, the director of Ghost. Yes, no, I'm mixing him up with someone else. Ghost Story, yeah, not Ghost.
Like
Ghost
the
Story.
David Lowery?
That's the guy. That's the Lowery that's doing
like
the Disney
the Green
Plus
Knight,
film.
David Lowery?
Yeah. He's doing Peter Pan and Wendy, which I was like, oh, this film looks kind of green. I was like, yeah, no, that does make sense that he did the Green Knight.
He also did Pete's Dragon, I believe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So he's familiar with that, like, more catered toward a younger audience type of film. I'm gonna watch that one for sure, but it will probably not be our main focus of next week, because as soon as this recording is done, I'll have to start and you'll go watch Fast and Furious, and I'll go watch all of the Evil Dead films. I've not seen a single one of them, trying to fit in all, I guess, 5 movies now, and if I get to it, the series as well. So we'll be talking about Evil Dead Rise, if everything goes according to plan next week. And you said you watched the first one. I don't know if this one is like probably not like directly tied to it. But yeah, I might need a refresher on that as well. But that's it for this week's show. You can follow the show, subscribe, leave a like. That's very much appreciated. You can follow all of our socials below, and then check the description. There's a bunch of stuff this week with the news stories, the short films from Ari Aster, if you want to expand on what we talked about today. And then, again, don't forget to drop your comments. I really want to know what people made of this film, apart from just like, oh, it was shit, like 1-sentence reviews on Letterboxd. So let us know in the comments. And that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye.